What if the pyramids of Egypt and the great temples of ancient China were built on a secret understanding of the universe, a philosophy that we've mostly forgotten? What if these ancient civilizations perceived something we don't, that every living thing is connected by an invisible life force? In the next few minutes, we'll journey back in time to explore how this belief in vital energies and auras wasn't just a spiritual idea, but a core concept that shaped healing and philosophy, and might just change the way you see the world today. If that sounds fascinating, make sure you're subscribed for more content just like this. Have you ever walked into a room and immediately felt a certain vibe? A sense of tension or warmth that you couldn't quite explain? Or have you ever sensed someone's presence before you even saw them? In our modern world, we often chalk these feelings up to intuition or psychology. But what if they are echoes of a different way of experiencing the world? For thousands of years across multiple continents, ancient peoples didn't just believe in this kind of energy. They gave it names, developed complex systems around it, and built entire philosophical and medical traditions upon it. To be clear, this wasn't physics in the modern sense of the word. It was a metaphysical framework. It was a philosophy for medicine. It was part of their blueprint for the cosmos, and they believed that living in harmony with it was a key to a healthy life. To understand the ancient world, we have to shift our perspective. We tend to trust what we can see and measure, but many ancient cultures gave equal, if not greater, weight to the unseen. They held a philosophical belief that underlying our physical reality was a subtle, vibrant energy that animated everything. This life force had many names, but the core idea popped up in remarkably similar ways across the globe. In ancient China, this was known as qi, pronounced chi. Qi wasn't just some vague spiritual notion. It was a fundamental concept in their medicine and philosophy, believed to be a universal energy permeating everything. It was the force that made rivers flow, trees grow, and blood course through our veins. Great texts like the Tao Te Ching are built on the idea of living in harmony with the flow of qi. Practices still used today, like acupuncture and qigong, were developed with a single purpose: to balance and cultivate the body's qi, based on the belief that illness was simply a result of its blockage or imbalance. Travel west to ancient India, and you find a parallel concept in Hindu scriptures known as the Upanishads Prana. Prana is often translated as life breath, the vital energy that sustains all living things. Sages in India taught that prana flows through thousands of subtle channels in the body known as nadis and gathers in energy centers. They believed that illness was caused by disruptions in this flow. It's important to note, though, that the modern idea of a colorful, multi-layered aura is a more recent development, heavily influenced by 19th and 20th century movements like theosophy, not something you'd find described in ancient Hindu texts. And in the sands of ancient Egypt, a vital essence was known as the ka. The ka was often depicted in hieroglyphs as a spiritual double of a person, a life force created at birth that was essential for life on earth and, just as importantly, in the afterlife. Nourishing the ka was a central part of Egyptian spiritual life. They believed a person's well-being, both in this life and the next, depended on it. So, whether it was qi, prana, or ka, the underlying idea was similar. Humans are more than just flesh and bone. We are beings animated by a vital force. But how did they put this philosophy into practice? This ancient understanding of energy was far from an abstract spiritual belief. It was woven into practical, everyday life, especially when it came to well-being. The most direct application was in healing. Long before modern pharmaceuticals, ancient medicine was, at its core, energy-based medicine. Sickness, whether of the body or mind, was often seen as a disruption in the flow of vital force. A healer's job wasn't just to treat the symptoms, but to diagnose and correct the underlying energetic imbalance. Traditional Chinese medicine and Ayurveda from India are two of the oldest, most comprehensive systems of healing on the planet, and both operate on this principle. Techniques like breathwork, called pranayama in yoga, meditation, and herbal remedies were all designed to cleanse blockages and restore the natural, harmonious flow of life force. Think about that for a moment. Instead of only fighting a disease, they sought to make the body's entire system so balanced that disease couldn't easily take hold. It was a profound form of preventative healthcare. But the influence of this energy went beyond personal health. It was also tied to spiritual authority. In many cultures, leaders like priests, kings, and shamans were often seen as having a powerful presence or spiritual charisma, interpreted as a sign of divine favor. This brings us to the halo seen in the religious art of countless traditions. While we see it today as a symbol, art historians believe it originated in Hellenistic and Roman art to represent divine figures or rulers. Christians later adopted it to symbolize holiness and a connection to divine light, a visual metaphor for a person's sacred status. So this belief in a universal life force wasn't limited to just living beings, you know. Ancient cultures often perceived the earth itself as alive, with its own currents of energy flowing through it. Have you ever wondered why certain places feel, well, special? Why ancient temples, stone circles, and cathedrals were built on very specific spots? To many of our ancestors, these were places of power, locations where the Earth's natural energy was believed to be unusually strong. Sacred sites, from mountains to natural springs, were often chosen for their perceived spiritual potency. The modern concept of ley lines, straight lines connecting these ancient sites, is a more recent theory popularized in the 1920s. It's a speculative idea, and there's no direct evidence ancient builders were thinking in these terms. However, some modern researchers have noted that certain ancient sites are located on spots with unique geophysical properties, like subtle magnetic field variations, leading to theories that ancient people may have been sensitive to forces we no longer consciously recognize. Rituals and ceremonies were often timed to align with celestial cycles, solstices, equinoxes, and moon phases. This was done in the belief that cosmic events amplified the energy of a sacred place. This worldview fostered a deep reverence for the environment. The landscape wasn't just a collection of rocks and trees. It was a living partner in the cosmic dance. So why, after thousands of years, does this ancient idea of energy fields and auras still fascinate us? Perhaps it's because in a world that can feel disconnected, it speaks to a deep human need for meaning and connection. The language has evolved, but the core concepts are very much alive. Practices like Reiki, a Japanese form of energy healing, therapeutic touch, and pranic healing are all modern methods built on the ancient foundation of working with the body's subtle energy. The huge popularity of yoga and meditation in the West is driven by that same ancient desire to balance our inner selves. Even science, which has historically been skeptical, is exploring phenomena at the edge of this ancient wisdom. While science has not found evidence for a spiritual aura as described in mystical traditions, researchers can now measure the body's very real electromagnetic fields. The HeartMath Institute, for example, has published research showing the heart produces a powerful magnetic field that can be measured several feet from the body, and that this field changes based on our emotions. While there's no scientific link between this biomagnetic field and the concept of a spiritual aura, it's an interesting parallel that shows our bodies have an energetic dimension our ancestors may have perceived in their own way. The enduring appeal of these beliefs lies in the sense of empowerment they offer. They suggest we can be active participants in our own well-being. They give us a framework for pondering the mysteries of consciousness and our connection to the universe. If this journey into ancient wisdom has sparked your curiosity, consider liking this video and subscribing for more explorations into the world's spiritual traditions. We'd love to read your thoughts in the comments below. Have you ever had an experience that felt like you were sensing an energy field or a vibe? In the end, whether you see it as literal truth or as a powerful metaphor, the belief in a universal life force served a profound purpose. It gave ancient civilizations a holistic framework for healing and understanding. It fostered social cohesion and offered explanations for the great mysteries of life and the cosmos. This ancient wisdom reminds us that there may be more to our world and more to ourselves than meets the eye.